let's look at this as in this case with Bitcoin. We're talking about an internet protocol, 7 distinct network effects all taking root at the same time. The first one is speculation. People buying it, because they want to make a quick buck on it, using it as a store of value, whatever. Use particular utility being built out in there, things like Armory, which help you secure your Bitcoins. You got to secure them in order to speculate on them, right? Exchanges, so Kraken, Bitstamp, Bitfinex, you need to be able to trade your Bitcoins for dollars, euros, yen, whatever. And then, so that's speculation. Next would be merchants. Merchants are going to accept Bitcoin merely because speculators hold Bitcoin. So this is a second network effect, second order network effect. BitPay is a good example of a payment processor. We have major internet giants like Rakuten, Microsoft, Dell, Dish Network, all these people accepting Bitcoin. We have over 100,000 merchants that accept Bitcoin. With BitPay, we have integrations with things like Shopify, which anybody who's got Shopify-enabled web checkout, and there are hundreds of thousands of merchants that have that, they can instantly be able to accept Bitcoin pretty much. So merchants accept Bitcoin because speculators hold it. The next would be the third order network effect. That would be consumers using Bitcoin solely because merchants accept it. An example of this would be Purse.io. Purse.io, you basically go and you make a wish list on Amazon, and then you import the wish list to Purse, and then you set the amount of discount that you want to receive, and you put your Bitcoins into escrow, and then somebody comes along and they're like, I want to buy those Bitcoins, so they buy your Amazon cart, have it shipped to you, and after you receive your items, then the Bitcoins get released from escrow to those people. Well, guess what? The average discount on Purse is 18%. So because people choose to pay with Bitcoin instead of paying with dollars or paying with a credit card or paying with a gift card or whatever, paying with Bitcoin, they save 18%. People using Bitcoin, they saved $500,000 in 2015 on Purse, buying stuff off Amazon. Like, why would you use anything else to buy stuff off Amazon? I mean, you don't even have to you can hate Bitcoin. You don't even have to hold Bitcoin very long. You just hold it enough to get the bid, and you save 10 to 18%, 35% in some cases. I've saved 35% on some of my orders. So that's consumers using Bitcoin solely because merchants accept it. The fourth network effect is the miners or the security of the network. We're approaching what's called 1 exahash. It's just an unfathomable amount of processing power that secures the Bitcoin blockchain. We're talking like tens and tens of thousands of times more processing power than the 500 largest supercomputers in the world combined. Everybody thinks like, oh, it's just real easy to start up one of these blockchains. No, it's not. You can get squashed by computer processing power. You have to be able to defend yourself against like Google or Microsoft or the NSA, right? Well, guess what? Bitcoin has so much processing power securing that blockchain. I just don't see any other blockchain being able to be anywhere near as secure, which leads to the fifth network effect, which are developers, software developers. They're going to build their applications and their utility and all of this stuff. They're going to build it on the most secure blockchain. Like, why build it on a less secure blockchain? Right? So that's a fifth network effect. That's developers having to spend all the time and the effort to get acquainted with a code base. Because you can think of developing software, it's kind of like playing Legos with words, right? And so what you have to do is you have to load like tens of thousands of lines of code into your head so that you can then play Legos with it. Like, that's how software gets developed. Getting people familiar with a code base, writing libraries so that people don't have to reinvent the wheel. All of this stuff, developers, guess what? They're all building on Bitcoin. They're not building on other blockchains because they're not as secure. They don't have as many merchants accepting it. They don't have as many speculators holding it, which all this stuff goes into the price of Bitcoin. Then we've got the sixth network effect, which I already mentioned earlier, the CFTC holding a meeting about using Bitcoin for futures and forwards and puts and calls and all that stuff. Well, that's the financialization network effect. That's where Wall Street really comes in and starts building these very creative, very useful in a lot of ways financial instruments. So that's the sixth network effect. We've already got regulated and approved swap execution facilities to write different derivative contracts for Bitcoin. And then we get to the seventh network effect, and I haven't really seen any. There hasn't really been any growth in this network effect yet. It's still very much a theoretical network effect. But what it is it's the world reserve currency. It's the settlement currency type network effect. It's where people, instead of cashing out into dollars or cashing out into euros, they cash out into Bitcoin. Right? Instead of trading like all the oil in an oil tanker for dollars, you trade it for Bitcoin. Instead of trading your piece of real estate for euros or yen, you're trading it for Bitcoin. You're settling into Bitcoin. But we are seeing this within the Bitcoin industry. And one of the largest software development houses, Blockstream, they've released this thing called Liquid, and Liquid connects all the Bitcoin exchanges, and it enables the Bitcoin exchanges to move customer balances trustlessly and pretty much instantaneously among each other. And the effect that is having is that in order to for these exchanges to settle amongst each other, they settle using Bitcoin, not using wire transfers.
Wow.
Right? So that's the first kind of green shoots of the world reserve settlement currency application, is this Liquid network among the Bitcoin exchanges. So now each of the Bitcoin exchanges, they all hold dollars or euros or whatever, but when customer A wants to move their balance to exchange B, they use the Bitcoin pipeline, they use this Liquid network. And instead of using wire transfers, we were using wire transfers for 5 or 6 years, right? But Bitcoin has now supplanted wires and dollars and euros and all this stuff for that network effect. So, we got 7 network effects all taking place at the same time. People spent millions of dollars like trying to go after eBay, and they failed. And eBay only had 2 network effects. And you get this cumulative exponential entrenchment that comes from having network effects all taking place. So do I think some other project, some other coin is going to be able to supplant these network effects? I think it's highly, highly improbable and unlikely. And if anybody has any idea of a project that does, please let me know, because I will buy a lot of that, right? Because it's probably highly undervalued.